everybody. I am so glad that you're joining us this morning. This morning you have so many different options. You might be on your couch right now. You might even still be lying in bed, maybe in pajamas. Maybe your dog or cat is with you. Maybe the kids are going crazy. So many things could be going on right now, but you're choosing to connect with us online, and I'm so glad that you're doing that. And I know online you've got all kinds of options. You could be watching a movie on Netflix. You could be searching for memes to kind of give you a little bit of joy. You could be looking for pictures of people overstocking on toilet paper, because that seems to be all the rage right now online. I mean, no matter where you go online, it seems like the news is abundantly unpleasant. Not only are we worried about the reality that there's a pandemic, not only are we worried that people we love might not be well, we're also worrying about people who are buying all the toilet paper, people who are rushing stores as soon as they get a shipment, people who are fighting in aisles and grabbing toilet paper when you got plenty in your cart from little old ladies. All these images, all these things that are coming at us all the time might get us wondering, what is wrong with people? I know I've been asking that question. You know, as I see the news, as you see images, whether you're on Facebook or on Instagram, of how people are behaving, you start going, why are people so bad? What is wrong with people? Especially at a time like this. But one of the things I realized, that as I was asking that question myself, and maybe you've been asking that question, is that I am people. Now, I haven't rushed to the store and bought all the toilet paper or Lysol wipes. I haven't pushed people out of the way to get takeout food. I haven't yelled at people. I haven't done any of those things. But I am a person. And I know inside of me, sometimes I don't do the right thing. As crazy as I might look at other people, I know that there are times that people might look at me that way. They might see me as someone who's acting insane. And here's the hard truth for all of us. You are people too. You too, maybe at some point in your life, have done something that someone looks at and goes, wow, I can't believe you acted that way. Maybe at some point your spouse, who's maybe had a really hard day, and you just ask them, hey, can you make dinner tonight? Thinks, what is wrong with you? Maybe at some point, your parents, who've been working really hard for you, try and get you what you need to go to school and stuff, and they ask you simply, hey, why don't you clean your room today? And then you don't, and they think, what is wrong with you? We've all kind of encountered moments where people have either thought of us that way, or we've thought of other people that way. And the truth is that we are all people. And as being all people, we all make huge mistakes. Unfortunately, right now, it's all magnified. It's magnified because we're scared. It's magnified because we don't know what's going on. It's magnified because we just don't know what to do. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? Well, first, you got to remind yourself of what you do know. And sometimes that's hard to do. So I would encourage you, remind yourself of the things you do know to do. In times like this, wash your hands, keep safe distances, and I would encourage you to know that you are deeply loved by God, and God's got a better way through Jesus than hoarding toilet paper in times like this. So I want to jump into a text that, to me, speaks to this moment. Speaks to a moment like we're finding ourselves in when we're not sure what to do, when we see people acting horribly, and we're wondering, how do I do this myself? Maybe we're worried like, hey, if I'm not competitive, if I don't push people out of the way, if I'm not selfish, I won't get what I need. But maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a way of compassion and love and selflessness that's much better than hoarding toilet paper, pushing people out of the way, acting like there's something wrong with you. So let's jump in. Philippians chapter 1 says this. Now the Apostle Paul, he finds himself in prison at this point, and he's got two friends who've been visiting him, and he's been sending this letter to this church in Philippi to make sure they're doing okay. So Paul, as he's in prison, he writes this, he says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete. Let's pause there. Now, if you're reading that, okay, if you have any encouragement, if any comfort, any common sharing, any tenderness, then make my joy complete. Paul's laying it on thick here. Moms and dads, maybe you've done this. I was in labor for 8.5 hours. You weighed way too much. We had to skip our dinner. We had to do all these things. So go clean your room. Right? He seems like he's laying it on really thick right here. He's laying it on really thick for this church, and he's trying to say, hey, pay attention here. Like, hey, if you say you are who you say you are, if you really do the things you say you're going to do, if you really, he says, then make my joy complete. Now, they have a relationship with Paul, where Paul's kind of like a spiritual father to them. So they don't want to disappoint him. They don't want to make him sad. They care about him. They love him. Kind of like how we are with our moms and dads. We don't want them to be disappointed in us, even though sometimes we know we disappoint them. But they say, oh, don't worry about it, honey. Well, maybe they do say, I'm disappointed in you. And that one really hurts, right? So they don't want that to happen. They're going to Paul, and Paul, they're worried about him. They sent him a gift. They say, hey, Paul, how you doing? And Paul writes back and says, hey, if you say who you are, make my joy complete. By being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and one in mind. So if we read between the lines, this is what's going on in this church. They're in conflict. There are people who are acting competitively. There are people who are acting selfishly. There are people who are being lazy. And people who are acting fearful. In a time when they don't know what's going on, when they're worried about maybe they'll get arrested and put in prison, when they're worried about, hey, I don't know where my next paycheck's going to come from. I don't know if I'm going to have enough food because the Roman government's going to take my stuff. They're acting in this competitive nature. And he says, hey, if you say you love me like you do, make my joy complete. Be like-minded, sharing that same love, one in spirit, one in mind. Find unity together. Find commonality together. Don't be competitive, be compassionate with each other. Don't be lazy, act in love with each other. Don't be fearful, act in faith. Ditch your selfishness and be selfless. Paul, as he's writing to them, he is deeply concerned about how they behave in a time when things are very uncertain. And he's saying, then do what you know is certain. Be like-minded. Remind yourselves that you're in this together. There's not you and them, it's us. All of us. And he continues and says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Now, there's a key word in this text that could so easily be overlooked because there's some powerful words in there like selfish ambition or vain conceit, humility, value others. Right? So we can look at those words, and those are really important, but there's another key word that can so easily be ignored, and we need not to ignore it. Nothing. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. So what is nothing? Well, it's actually everything. Don't do anything out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. You're in the grocery store, you're shopping, one pack of toilet paper, there's a little old lady, she's slow, she's behind you. You're like, I'm going to get that before her. No, don't do that. You got 2 packs of toilet paper, you're in your home, you're alone. You know you don't need 2 packs of toilet paper. Don't hoard it. Maybe there's other parts of it too, though. I mean, it's not all about toilet paper this time. You're scared. I'm scared. We don't know what's going on. We try and trust what we hear in the news, but there's always so many different things coming out. News is changing so fast. So what do? Maybe we keep to ourselves. Maybe we're like, okay, I got to protect myself. I got to make sure I'm safe. I got to ignore everybody else. But no, don't do that out of selfish ambition, out of vain conceit. Don't do anything out of that. Instead, in humility, value others above yourselves. Check on your neighbor. you're scared, but maybe they're scared too. So sometimes you just got to go, okay, I'm going to see how they're doing. Focus on others. Sometimes that's the best remedy for when we're worried, when we're feeling anxiety, is to move the focus from ourselves, because we're just going, okay, I'm scared, to go, I wonder how they're feeling. So instead of choosing to be focused on yourself, think about others. It's going to continue. It says, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Not your own interests, but others' interests. Think about what that means for you right now. Maybe you find yourself, you're sitting on your couch in your pajamas. You're fine. You've got Netflix, you've got internet, but maybe your grandma doesn't. Give her a call. Don't be like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need to worry about anything. Think about others. Don't do it out of your own vain conceit, your selfish ambition. Don't try and just be like, I'm going to protect myself, I'm going to hoard, I'm going to stay still. Think about others. What does it mean for you to value others before yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but to the interests of others? What does that mean for you? Now, we could be looking at the internet and we could be seeing those pictures of people hoarding and go, that's not me. That's not me. I've just got enough food for 2 weeks. I'm not, hoarding for a year. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I don't have my bunker, my shelter built up. I don't have all that. That's not me. So you're thinking, I'm fine. I'm not one of those selfish people. And you're probably not. I don't think you are. Most of us don't want to be selfish. Most of us don't intend to be. Sometimes we are. And so we could be looking at other people and be like, what's wrong with you people? We got to look at our own hearts and go, well, what's wrong with me? What does it mean for me, in humility, to value others above myself at this time? Well, here's the thing I would like to encourage you to do. Wherever you find yourselves, on a couch, in a bed, maybe you dressed up for church, maybe you're wearing your pajamas, maybe you forgot about church and you're listening to this like a couple hours later. That's okay. But be the people you want to see. Act the way you want other people to act. As Paul says, don't do anything out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Not looking to your own interests, but each of us to the interests of others. Be the people you want to see. You don't want to see people hoarding. You don't want to see people pushing little old ladies out of the way. You don't want to see people cussing out drive-through people who are working really hard. You don't want to see people being mean to those people in those grocery stores who are working so hard, or the cleaners, or the doctors. You don't want to see that. So be the people you want to see. Lead by example. Show people how we can behave. Show people how we can be different. Show people how we can empty ourselves of selfishness and be filled with selflessness. Show people that we can empty ourselves of the desire for competition, to push other people away, to get stuff just for ourselves, and fill yourself with compassion, caring about other people's needs. When you go to the grocery store, don't just try to get for yourself, maybe get for your neighbor, check in on them. Choose to empty yourself of the laziness of just sitting on your couch for 2 weeks, watching Netflix, and be filled with love for other people. Choose that. Choose to go beyond just caring about yourself and look to others. See how you can serve. See how you can love. And finally, for some of us, we need to empty ourselves of the fear we're experiencing. I understand it, I do. If you're at home, your kids, maybe one of them has got a cough. You're like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe you yourself are feeling under the weather. Like, I don't know what's going on. We have this reality that there's this virus going around that was so unknown for some of us. There's also colds and flus, and we don't know which is which. We've got to empty ourselves of fear, because perfect love casts out fear. And I know someone who loves you more perfectly than you can imagine. I know that Jesus would do anything for you. In fact, he has done everything for you. He has chosen you to be loved. He's chosen you before you even knew it, because you're worth it. And his love that brought him to the cross, to die and rise again for us, to heal us, to make us whole, to forgive us, to give us the opportunity for life in all its fullness. His love casts out fear. Empty yourself of fear and take this time to fill yourself with faith. Trust God. Maybe for the first time. Maybe for some of us, we're thinking, I've been to church, I don't believe it, I don't know what to do. Find out who Jesus is. Find out what he did for you. Find out his love for you. And ask yourself, why would someone do that for me? For those of us who maybe we believe for a long time, remind yourself this. Remind you that God is still here, God is still in control, and God is not surprised by a virus. In the midst of this, he's inviting us to be the people we want to see. In the midst of us, he's inviting us to act more and more like he's made us to act. People of love, truth, compassion, selflessness, faith. He's inviting us into that. And I want to invite you, wherever you find yourself. Maybe you're not sure what you believe. Maybe you don't believe in God. Maybe you're asking these questions right now. Well, what is going on in the world? Fight your fear with faith. Empty yourself of that fear and ask yourself, why does God love me so much? And then choose to empty yourself of your selfishness, your competition, your laziness, your fear, and be the people you want to see. This letter that Paul wrote to the Philippians is really interesting because, in fact, he was feeling isolated. He was in prison. Prison was different then than it is now. And at that time, he had two people who were taking care of him. One was his friend Timothy, who he had mentored. Another one, his friend he cared a lot about, is Epaphroditus. And it's amazing is if you follow the text just after the area that I read. So I'd encourage you, look up online, maybe go to Bible Gateway or Bible.com, or pull out your Bible and read Philippians chapter 2. And Paul's going to explain more what it means to act this way, to be the people that you want to see, and how Jesus was an example of that. And then he's going to get to this point where he says, you know what? I'm going to send Epaphroditus back to you. I love him. I'm going to miss him, but he's not well. And so I'm going to choose to isolate myself even more for his well-being. We're in a time where we're acting like that. And even though this was written about 2,000 years ago, Paul was dealing with a similar reality, that he couldn't be with the people he loved. But he knew that we could be the people we want to see. So I want to encourage you, wherever you are, be the people you want to see. Act in love, act in compassion, act in selflessness. Fight your fear with faith.